That year I turned 20, my stepfather Frank broke into my room for the 9th time. Ethan grabbed a wine bottle and rushed in, only to be struck on the head by stepfather Frank with an iron bar/pipe. That blow left him deaf in his left ear and got him kicked out of the Lynn family. I stole the marriage license and cried, holding him at the city hall in trance, "From now on, I'll be your ears." To buy him the best hearing aid, I secretly worked at a nightclub dancing, getting forced into heavy drinking by guests until my stomach bled, yet still smiling as I counted the cash/money. Until that day, I switched shifts at the last minute and saw him standing at the entrance of a VVIP private suite. He was supposed to be hauling bricks at a construction site, but instead, he wore a tens of thousands of dollars suit, a diamond stud in his left ear, laughing and chatting with a group of wealthy family/high society kids. "Ethan, is pretending to be deaf and dumb to fool your wife fun?" A heavily made-up woman kicked him lightly. "I heard she let guests touch her thigh last night just to get cash/money for your medical bills, and she didn't even dare flinch?" He chuckled, toying with the ear stud. "What wife? Just a bit of entertainment," he said, swirling his drink. "If it wasn't to make Brittany jealous, who would play this pathetic act with her? That license is fake. Who would want to marry a used-up slut who's already carried a dead child?" So, he had been lying all along. So, his tenderness, his disability, his downfall, it was all an act. But later, he would kneel down before me, pleading desperately. I stood outside the private suite, peering through the gap in the door, and my breath instantly froze at the sight of that familiar face. Ethan was surrounded by a group of wealthy young men, his suit sharp, showing no trace of a down-and-out deaf man. "Ethan, why aren't you with that wife of yours today?" someone asked with a laugh. The clinking of glasses was jarring. "If you ask me, you must be tired. Is it fun pretending to be deaf and dumb all the time?" A young man raised his glass, a sneer playing on his lips. "And you keep sending thugs to harass your wife. Aren't you afraid something will happen to her?" Ethan chuckled softly, his voice cold and thin. "What wife? Just a bit of entertainment." My nails dug into my palms, but I felt no pain. "If it wasn't to make Brittany jealous, who would play this pathetic act with her? The marriage license is fake." His voice was like a blade. "Does a used-up slut like her, who's been tossed aside, deserve to be my wife? My wife will always and only be Brittany." I stumbled into the lounge, knocking over a table. The manager grabbed me. "Olivia! What's gotten into you?" Her gaze fell on my face, and she suddenly fell silent. "What's wrong? Did someone hurt you?" My face was covered in tears. "I'm sorry, manager. I don't feel well. I don't want the cash/money for today." Her tone softened. All right, you should go home. You look like death." I managed a smile that was uglier than a cry. Back home, I sat numbly in the small rental apartment, staring blankly at the photos on the wall. Ever since Ethan went deaf, I rented this small apartment and got the license with him. I thought then that he became like this because he saved me, and I had to stay with him forever. To buy him the best hearing aid, I secretly worked at a nightclub, getting forced into heavy drinking by guests until my stomach bled, yet still smiling as I counted the cash/money. "Olivia, you are utterly foolish. Others treated you like an idiot and played you, yet you happily walked right into it. And what was the result? He didn't need me at all. What was I? Just some dispensable entertainment, just a used-up slut." I pulled the crumpled pregnancy test results from my pocket, clutching them tight. Why, tears splattered onto the paper, and I finally couldn't hold back, collapsing onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Just as I wiped away my tears, I heard the sound of things being smashed outside. "Damn it! Where's that deaf guy of yours? You haven't paid this month's protection money." I rushed out, pulled out the cash/money I had saved for the hearing aid, and threw it hard in their faces. "Is that enough? Get out! All of you, get lost!" The group was stunned by my sudden outburst. After exchanging glances, they grudgingly left. "Crazy woman. Go see a doctor if you're sick." Before, whenever they came, I would tremble and give them cash/money, terrified they would make trouble for Ethan. My savings were always just a little short, never quite enough. Only now did I realize it was all a trick orchestrated by Ethan. It felt like my heart was being slowly cut open with a dull knife. When Ethan returned, I was curled up in bed, pretending to be asleep. He lay down softly, and then his phone rang. He glanced at the sleeping me and went outside. "Brittany? You're back? I've missed you so much. All these years, I've been waiting for you." Listening to his gentle confession, tears silently fell down my face. When he came back in, he didn't immediately get into bed. I heard the rustle of paper. Oh no! He found the pregnancy test results. I bit my lip hard. He wouldn't tolerate this child. Tomorrow, I'd go to the hospital myself to take care of it. In the early morning, he woke up early for a change. "Liv, the construction site will be all night today." I knew he was in a hurry to see Brittany. I nodded calmly. "Remember to eat." He left a kiss on my forehead and closed the door as he left. I immediately hailed a taxi to the hospital. As I lay on the operating table, there was a slight flutter in my belly, like a tiny protest. That peculiar tremor made me suddenly snap awake. "Stop! I'm not doing it." I yanked off the surgical gown. "I'm keeping this child." Stepping out of the hospital, the sunlight stung my eyes. I had a child once before. The child I was forced to lose was a nightmare. My mother, to please stepfather Frank, pushed me into that abyss herself. But now, this child was innocent. I walked down the street in a daze, when suddenly a car accelerated and sped towards me. Before losing consciousness, I heard someone say, "Don't kill her, the boss just wants her scared." My heart ached so much it felt like it would stop beating. "Ethan, you wouldn't even spare your own child?" I slowly opened my eyes. The air was filled with the smell of disinfectant. Ethan sat by the hospital bed, his face filled with sorrow. "Olivia, you were in a car accident." His lips trembled. "The baby didn't make it." I stared straight at him, tears silently streaming down my face. He fumbled to wipe my tears, but they wouldn't stop falling, like beads from a broken string. "Let's get divorced," I said softly. His pupils contracted sharply. The next second, he showed a look of confusion. "Olivia, what did you say? I can't hear you." I gave a cold laugh and slowly raised my hand, signing the words. "I said divorce." His body visibly stiffened for a moment, but he continued his act. "What? Can you say that again?" Just then, his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, his expression turning anxious. "There's an emergency at the construction site. I have to go." Without waiting for my answer, he turned and left. Looking at his hasty retreating figure, I laughed coldly. My fingers unconsciously brushed my flat abdomen, a pang of sadness in my chest. I opened my phone and for the first time clicked on a high society gossip column I had never paid attention to before. Sure enough, photos of Ethan and Brittany were front and center. Wealthy family/high society heiress Brittany returns to the country, childhood sweetheart Ethan constantly by her side. In the photo, he was carefully supporting Brittany, who had twisted her ankle, accompanying her shopping, and paying for her purchases with his card. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, Ethan sent another text saying he had to work late. I returned to the small rental apartment and threw everything related to him into the trash. To save enough cash/money to leave, I found a new job. It was at a high-end hotel, and all the servers had to wear elaborate masks while moving among the guests. On my first day, I had just put on my mask and entered the gala/ballroom when I saw Brittany surrounded by a crowd in the center. Standing beside her was the figure I knew all too well, Ethan. I stood in the corner of the gala/ballroom, watching Ethan take a velvet box from his suit pocket. As he knelt down, the light reflecting off the diamond ring stung my eyes. "Brittany, I've loved you for a long time. I've been waiting for you all these years. Will you marry me?" Brittany gasped in surprise, covering her mouth, her eyes sparkling with tears. "Yes, I will." Fireworks suddenly exploded all around, illuminating the entire night sky like broad daylight. I looked up at the dazzling bursts of light, my eyes welling up. I remembered when we got our license, there was no ring, no wedding, just a cheap diner meal outside City Hall. He said then he'd make it up to me with a ring and a wedding when he had cash/money. And now, that fake marriage license was still at the bottom of my drawer. Romantic piano music filled the gala/ballroom, and they kissed under the fireworks. I lowered my head and continued wiping glasses. "Hey!" Brittany suddenly walked up to me, thrusting a glass forward. "This shot of vodka is for you." I gently shook my head. "I'm sorry, I can't drink." As soon as I finished speaking, she splashed the entire glass of vodka in my face. Who hired these people? They're so rude. Ethan rushed over when he heard the commotion. "What's wrong, Brittany?" Brittany pointed at me. "This server is rude," she talked back to me. Ethan sighed in relief. "Just a server. If she upset you, I'll punish her." The next second, my shoulder was grabbed roughly, and my knees hit the cold tile floor with a thud. His voice was icy. "Kneel down and apologize to Miss Brittany." Everyone's eyes were on me. I bit my lip, my voice hoarse. "I'm sorry, Miss Brittany." As Ethan released me, his gaze swept over the bracelet on my wrist, his brow furrowing slightly. Brittany suddenly reached out and pushed me. Caught off guard, I fell backward, hitting the edge of the pool hard with my forehead. Blood mixed with the pool water, spreading out. "She's filthy." Ethan pulled her face into his chest. "Don't look." Soaking wet, I crawled ashore, struggling to stand under the guests' mocking stares. After finishing my work, the supervisor suddenly grabbed my arm. "Wait! Miss Brittany specifically requested you." I was roughly shoved into a presidential suite. Scattered clothing led from the entrance all the way to the bed. The air was thick with perfume and a strange scent. I stood rooted to the spot, not reacting for a moment. "Get me that box of condoms on the sofa," Brittany said lazily, seemingly unconcerned by my presence. I stiffly turned, glimpsing several torn wrappers on the carpet. My fingertips trembled uncontrollably. Brittany suddenly leaned closer and whispered, "Olivia, what makes you think you can compete with me, lowlife? If you're smart, stay away from Ethan." My heart sank heavily. I stiffly handed her the box. Ethan was half reclining on the bed, his bare upper body marked with ambiguous traces. He didn't even look at me, saying coldly, "Aren't you going to get out?" Lost and distraught, I walked out of the room, my nails unconsciously digging into my palms. Behind me came sounds that made me nauseous. Each sound was like a knife stabbing my heart. When I got back to the small rental apartment, I found the lock had been violently broken. The interior was a mess, the wardrobe toppled over, our photos together trampled and shattered. I knelt down, picking up the photo fragments one by one. The sharp edges of the glass cut my fingers, but I felt no pain. "Ethan, are you so fixated on Brittany? For her sake, you wouldn't even leave the last bit of kindness?" I lay in the chaos, staring at the pale ceiling, my vision blurred. Just as dawn broke, my phone screen lit up, a new message popping up. "Olivia, something happened at the construction site. Can you come?" It was Ethan. I stared at the message for a long time, until the screen went dark. Finally, I slowly wiped the blood from my hands, picked up my coat, and went out. It was time to end things. I walked into the abandoned factory indicated in the text message. The air was thick with the smell of rust and dust. Every step made my nerves tense. Suddenly, a pair of rough hands grabbed me tightly from behind. The familiar stench made my blood run cold. It was Frank, my stepfather Frank. Ethan had once taken an iron bar/pipe for me because of him. I almost screamed. This man was the deepest nightmare of my life. I had hidden in the suburbs for years, thinking I had finally escaped him. "Get off! Let go of me!" I struggled desperately, my stomach churning. His mouth, reeking of alcohol, pressed against my ear. "Damn girl! Thought you found a backer? You got me hit with a wine bottle. Today I'm going to teach you a lesson." As I struggled, I suddenly looked up. Standing on the floor above was the figure I knew all too well. "Ethan! Help me! Please!" I screamed heartbreakingly, my voice echoing through the empty factory. His shoulder clearly twitched, but he didn't turn around. Brittany sat opposite him, a.s. smile on her lips, whispering, "Ethan, you said you love me most. Prove it to me." Below, my cries grew more and more desperate. Ethan frowned. Brittany lowered her voice. "If you go down now, your act of being deaf will be exposed. Besides, it's just to scare her a little. Are you worried about her?" Looking at that indifferent back, my heart felt like it was being torn apart. He would make me relive the nightmares of the past just to make Brittany happy. The moment Frank ripped at my clothes, I pulled out a razor blade and fiercely stabbed it into his right eye. Frank screamed loudly, blood gushing out. I seized the chance to break free and stumbled towards the main door. I ran as fast as I could, the night rain wetting my face, making it impossible to tell if it was rain or tears. Everything was blurred in front of me. I didn't even see the Maybach speeding towards me. Bang! Excruciating pain shot through my limbs. I fell completely into darkness. Ethan somewhat regretted agreeing to Brittany's test. When he stood upstairs and watched Olivia being cornered by her stepfather Frank, he almost rushed down. But Brittany was right there, watching him. He had waited so many years for her to finally agree to marry him, he couldn't fail now. Yet, when Olivia's painful cries reached him, his heart clenched tightly. Suddenly, a scream came from downstairs. He looked down and saw Olivia's stepfather Frank on the ground, clutching his eye and wailing, a mess beneath him. Olivia was gone. He immediately rushed downstairs, but the outside was empty, only the night wind blowing. Brittany slowly walked down, pouting. She actually ran away. Fine, I guess you passed the test. In the days that followed, Ethan began preparing for his wedding with Brittany. But his heart felt like a piece was missing, empty. He secretly went to that small rental apartment. Pushing the door open, it was a scene of devastation. Furniture smashed to pieces. In the chaotic wreckage, he found a note with only a single line of small writing: "Ethan, I know everything. Since you had this place destroyed, let's never see each other again." Scattered on the floor was the torn fake marriage license. He froze, and the note slipped from his fingers. Brittany was in high spirits after hearing Olivia had left. But seeing Ethan's distracted look, she frowned in displeasure. "Ethan, didn't you say you were going to come try on wedding dresses with me?" She suddenly narrowed her eyes. "You didn't actually fall for her, did you? Didn't you say at first you were just using her to make me jealous?" Ethan suppressed the strange feeling in his heart and forced a smile. "Of course not. I promised to give you the best." He accompanied Brittany shopping, bought her a new sports car, and ordered a mansion/villa. Brittany's demands grew more and more frequent, and he began to feel exhausted. Sitting on the sofa in the bridal shop, he stared out the window in a daze, suddenly remembering that day when he and Olivia pretended to get their license. She looked at the wedding dresses in the window, her eyes shining. He casually said, "I'll make it up to you when I have cash/money." He thought of how tired Olivia looked every day after work, yet she still insisted on cooking for him. She would always be busy in the narrow kitchen for a long time, making his favorite dishes in different ways. Although that simple small rental apartment was small, they had shared many warm moments there. Brittany walked out wearing a magnificent wedding dress. He mechanically smiled, but felt no joy. He complimented her, "You look great." Brittany's phone suddenly vibrated. She grabbed it almost reflexively, her fingers quickly sliding across the screen. "Ethan, I have something to do," she said in a hurry, changing out of the dress and leaving before Ethan could even respond. Ethan stood there, watching Brittany's retreating back. Scenes like this had become increasingly frequent lately. Brittany would suddenly get a call and make an excuse to leave, sometimes not even taking her bag. When she took calls, she would always deliberately lower her voice and hang up immediately if she saw him approach. The sunlight outside was just right, making the bridal shop window sparkle. Ethan stared at the reflections, lost in thought, and suddenly wanted to know what Brittany was hiding from him. Once this thought arose, it was like a thorn in his heart, making him restless. He took out his phone, hesitated for a moment, and finally dialed a number. "Help me look into something." In Ethan's office, a light knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he said without looking up, his tone cold. The assistant cautiously pushed the door open, looking hesitant and about to speak. The assistant swallowed. Mr. Ethan, regarding Miss Brittany, the investigation results are a bit different from what she told you. What she called studying abroad was actually. The assistant handed over the file, his voice growing softer. She got married in the United States and has 3 children. This return trip was because her husband discovered her infidelity, and she even gave up custody of the children. Ethan's pen left a streak of ink on the document. Brittany had clearly said she was pursuing a film degree and was a celebrity in the entertainment industry. And the assistant continued with difficulty. She spent lavishly abroad, and her ex-husband couldn't bear the financial burden. Ethan suddenly stood up, documents scattering everywhere. He strode out of the office, only to hear familiar laughter in the parking lot. In the sports car he had given Brittany, figures were intertwined. Brittany's voice was sickeningly sweet. "You don't spend enough time with me, what? Can't the Lin Family Guy satisfy yo?" "You?" The man laughed lightly. Brittany simpered. "Oh, him? He's just an outcast from the Lin family, stingy with a house and a car. Not like Chin, so generous." Ethan's clenched fists were visibly veined. A moment later, he gave a cold laugh and sent Brittany a message. At a commercial gala, Ethan was distracted, mingling with guests. His subordinate had just reported that they couldn't find a trace of Olivia anywhere in the city. He had gone to that dilapidated small rental apartment for several days in a row, but Olivia seemed to have vanished into thin air. Just then, Brittany gracefully approached with an invitation. Seeing Ethan, she immediately clung to him, her full breasts brushing his arm almost imperceptibly. "Ethan, I especially loved the yacht you gave me before," she blinked. "Oh, by the way, there's a jewelry set being auctioned at Sotheby's that I really want. It's only $30 million. A wave of nausea rose in Ethan's heart. He had never imagined that his first love / the woman I idealized, his white moonlight, could be so vulgar and materialistic underneath. Suddenly, a group of people burst into the gala / ballroom. 3 children rushed over and clung to Brittany's legs. "Mommy! Mommy!" Brittany's face changed drastically. She yelled sharply, "Get lost! Who's your mother? Stop shouting nonsense!" She turned to Ethan in panic. "Ethan, don't believe them. Someone must be jealous of me and deliberately framed me." A tall, obese man walked over angrily, cursing in broken Chinese. "Bitch!" Ethan stood to the side, his expression dark and unreadable. The man raised his hand and slapped Brittany hard across the face. "I gave you food and drink, spent hundreds of millions of dollars on you, and you dare steal the family crest from my safe. Give it back immediately. That thing is crucial." The entire venue was in uproar. Brittany's parents were also present, their faces instantly pale within. Brittany, if you took something from someone, give it back quickly. Child, why are you always so ignorant? Has the family ever mistreated you?" Brittany cried miserably. "That was the family crest? I thought it was just ordinary jewels. I already sold it and bought this Hermes bag." Before she could finish, the man punched her ribs, and the clear sound of bone breaking echoed. Brittany collapsed to the ground, spitting up blood. The scene was chaos, reporters frantically capturing the moment. The next day, the scandal of the Brittany family heiress swept the city. The heiress was not only living a chaotic private life, having 3 children abroad, but also stealing valuable property. The online hot searches exploded instantly. "No way, a wealthy family / high society lady steals things? You don't understand. Some rich girls just have kleptomania. It's not about needing cash / money, it's purely a psychological problem." Brittany broke 3 ribs and lay in the hospital for 3 months. After being discharged, she was directly sent to a psychiatric hospital. Ethan moved into that dilapidated small apartment. In the midst of the wreckage, memories flooded back. He remembered Olivia's tired but still gentle smile every day after work, remembering how she insisted on washing clothes outside to save on electricity bills, remembering how she always gave him the only thick blanket in winter, while she shivered with cold hands and feet. Ethan sat slumped on the ground, suddenly realizing what he had lost. "When I woke up, I found myself lying in an unfamiliar room. Not far away, a tall, imposing man stood there. His features were sharp, his eyes like a painting, and his whole demeanor exuded a cold, stern aura. He frowned slightly, his voice low. "You hit my car. Why weren't you watching where you were going?" I lowered my head, unconsciously clenching the hem of my clothes. "I'm sorry. I don't have cash/money to pay now, but I'll definitely pay you back later." His frown deepened. "Forget it. If I wait for you to pay, when will that be? You can leave if you're all right." Thinking of my stepfather Frank's vicious gaze, thinking of Ethan's cold back, I suddenly threw off the covers and knelt down right in front of him. "Sir, please take me in." My voice trembled. "I can be a servant, I can do any kind of work." The assistant behind him impatiently waved his hand. Go on, go on. The Move family doesn't need people, especially not someone as frail as you." I gritted my teeth and kowtowed. "I'll work hard to become strong. Please give me a chance." The man watched me in silence for a few seconds, finally speaking. "Stay if you want. If you can't stand it, get out." Later I understood the meaning of that sentence. Every one of the Move family's subordinates was skilled and the training was brutal. There was hardly a day I didn't have injuries. But compared to going back to face stepfather Frank, I'd rather grit my teeth and endure. Occasionally, I would check the news, but I never saw news of Brittany and Ethan getting married. One day, the man came again. He stood by the training ground, his gaze falling on me, a rare hint of approval in his eyes. "You're quite resilient." From others, I learned he was the third young master of the Move family, Alexander. His mother died young, and in the Move family, he always kept to himself. After that, he started coming more often. One morning, he appeared early, his face terribly gloomy. I quietly tugged the assistant's sleeve. "What's wrong with Mr. Alexander?" The assistant lowered his voice. "He has to go back to the family estate today. He'll see his stepmother again. Every time they meet, it's unpleasant." Alexander suddenly spoke. "Olivia, come here. You're coming with me today." Sitting in the car, the air was almost solid. I sat quietly, my peripheral vision stealing blank. At his tense profile. Upon arriving at the Move family estate, a woman dripping with jewelry greeted us warmly. "Alexander, you're finally back. Your father talks about you all the time." She was Alexander's stepmother, Eleanor. Her voice was overly sweet, but somehow unsettling. At the dining table, Eleanor smiled while serving Alexander food, saying, "Alexander, your brother is not young anymore. He should learn to manage businesses. Why don't you let him practice on the businesses you have in the city?" Christopher, sitting nearby, immediately echoed, "Brother, that's a small matter for you." Alexander's knuckles turned slightly white, his fingers taut. I acutely sensed his anger. Just before the tension was about to explode, I pretended to lose my footing and deliberately knocked over the red wine glass beside me. He suddenly stood up, grabbing me. "Useless thing! Come with me. I'm going to teach you a lesson." He pulled me quickly towards the guest room. His grip seemed rough, but he skillfully controlled the force so as not to hurt me. The moment the door closed, he immediately released me, his stern brows relaxing, and a slight smile touched his lips. Quick thinking. The stone in my heart finally lifted. "I'm glad I could help you out." He sat on the sofa and, for the first time, poured me a cup of tea. "Eleanor has a charity event at 4, she won't be bothering us anymore. From now on, you'll stay by my side." Just like that, I officially became Alexander's personal assistant. I adapted to my new role with astonishing speed, not only handling company documents proficiently but also helping him navigate various tricky family social engagements. Days turned into weeks, the injuries on my body grew fewer, and the gloom in my heart gradually lifted. And something between Alexander and me seemed to be quietly changing. I often made him hangover soup in the evenings. One time he came back drunk and grabbed my busy hands. "Stop working." His hand was hot, making my heart suddenly beat faster. "What are you most afraid of now?" he suddenly asked me. I looked at the rain outside and finally told him about stepfather Frank. The next morning, the assistant delivered the newspaper and specifically turned to the social section. It reported the news of a drunk man falling into a ditch and dying. I looked at Alexander in shock. His eyes held a tenderness I had never seen before. There's something special about you. Alexander looked directly into my eyes, his voice firm. Be with me. From now on, no one will ever lay a hand on you again. We'll become stronger together. I nodded softly, placing my hand in his warm palm. On Mr. Moose Sr.'s birthday banquet, I followed Alexander into the family estate again. Just as we passed through the courtyard, a burning gaze fell upon me. Ethan stood among the guests, his champagne glass trembling slightly. His eyes followed my every move. I calmly looked away, not sparing him a second glance throughout the event. Unexpectedly, 3 days later, he actually came directly to Moo Corporation. As I walked out of the building, I heard his hoarse voice. Olivia! Ethan stood not far away, staring intently at me. His face was haggard, his eyes red-rimmed, and his voice hoarse. Olivia, don't go! I gave him a cold look and turned to leave. He quickly grabbed my wrist. Please, don't go! I curled my lips in a sarcastic smile. What, Mr. Ethan, still playing the poor guy game? You'd better put your hearing aid back on then. If you're going to act, do it properly. Should I find a few thugs to humiliate me again? His face instantly turned pale. Olivia, please, don't be like this. I know I was wrong. Please, forgive me. I sneered. Forgive? What makes you think you deserve it? You played me like an idiot, spinning me around in circles. Now you find out your first love / the woman I idealized isn't a good person, and you want to use me to make her jealous again? He shook his head frantically. No, I haven't loved her for a long time. She got married and had children abroad, but she lied and told me she was studying. I thought I still loved her, but it was just regret. What's in my heart has always been you. After all this time together, I fell in love with you long ago. I looked at him calmly. Love? Do you even deserve to use that word? You knew how much I hated stepfather Frank, yet you still sent me into his hands. I continued. When you hit my car, I was 3 months pregnant. You killed our child with your own hands. He was trembling all over. I'm sorry, just for a moment. Tears rolled down from his red eyes, his voice broken. He suddenly knelt down, his expensive suit staining with dust. He grabbed my hand, pulling it towards his own face and slapped himself hard. Once, twice, 3 times. His cheeks quickly became swollen and red, blood seeping from the corner of his mouth. Tears mixed with blood dripped onto the ground. I don't believe a word you say. I turned and walked away without looking back. At the auction gala, Alexander and I sat side by side. He turned to me and asked, Your birthday is coming up. What do you want? I gently shook my head. Mr. Alexander taking me in is already the greatest kindness. The auctioneer successively presented the treasures until a crystal-clear jade bracelet appeared on the display stand. My gaze was involuntarily drawn to it. Alexander keenly caught my reaction and immediately raised his paddle. $1 million. Suddenly, the doors of the venue burst open. Ethan stumbled in, breathless, and shouted, Hold it right there. After the auction ended, Ethan held the jade bracelet he had just won, looking at me with eager eyes. Olivia, this is for you. Alexander stood with his arms crossed, watching in silence. I took a cold step back. No need. Ethan, I thought I made it clear last time. I don't want anything from you. And I never want to see you again in my life. His eyes turned red, his voice choked. I know you hate me, but please give me a chance. I didn't smash that apartment, it was Brittany. Enough. I interrupted him. Do I need to remind you how you humiliated me in front of your friends? You kept saying in front of your friends that I was a used-up slut who had carried a dead child. What kind of game are you playing with this act now? Alexander walked over and took my hand. Let's go. Ethan stared intently at our clasped hands, his face deathly pale. Alexander and I turned and left. On the way back, a car suddenly blocked the road ahead. Ethan staggered out. "Get out of the car quickly! There's a bomb in the car!" Alexander reacted instantly, pulling me out through the car window. Almost simultaneously, our car exploded into a fireball behind us. While still reeling from the shock, Brittany suddenly rushed out from the shadows, clutching a flashing detonator. "Olivia, today is the day you die. I'm going to take you down with me. Bitch! It's all your fault. You made Ethan leave me. What's so great about you anyway? Die!" In a flash, a figure violently pushed me away. Amidst the deafening explosion, I saw Ethan collapse, covered in blood, while Brittany vanished in the fire. Ethan's ear was injured in the blast, and he could no longer hear. A year later, Alexander and I held our wedding. On the wedding day, I received an anonymous transfer with the note "Happy Wedding." Alexander placed the wedding ring on my finger. After we married, we had 3 children. A truly happy future awaited me.